Everyone, it's Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show. And hey, we're going a little different direction today, not commercial real estate brokers. We're going to talk commercial real estate insurance. Yeah, insurance. It's a major challenge, opportunity, obstacle. I don't know, but we're going to get to the expert. The expert is going to be Skylar Romines out in Orange County, California with Baldwin Risk Partners. Hi, this is Rod Santomassimo, and welcome to the Massimo Show. The objective of the Massimo Show is to share how you can maximize your personal and professional margin. That's right. Let's make more money in less time. Let's turn chaos into clarity, confusion into confidence, and income into real wealth. Along with sharing my insight on how I grew a multi-million-dollar professional business, we will bring you expert advice from various authors, consultants, and industry leaders and provide you the tools you need to build that commercial real estate business and life you have always desired. Welcome to the Massimo Show. Skylar, welcome to the Massimo Show.
Hi, Rod. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you here. Now, Skylar, you don't know this. Before I start with one question that's off the wall, and that is, who the heck was Skylar in high school?
Oh, no. In high school, Skylar was a very different person than she is now. Gosh, that's a tough question for Skylar. In high school, I definitely had not found myself yet. So high school was a challenging time for me. Definitely went through an emo phase. I think everyone who's an elder millennial like myself is very familiar with what that might mean. But I definitely had, the heavy eye makeup, the bangs. I actually changed schools my sophomore year, changed high schools, which as anyone who has done that knows, it's a very challenging time to kind of make that shift. So didn't have a lot of friends, spent some days in the bathroom crying alone. High school was rough for me. I was a late bloomer for sure. So I'm definitely part of the late bloomer gang. Happy to be done with those years for sure.
High school is tough. And we actually switched our kids' high schools, like you just said, my daughter after her sophomore year. So yeah, I get it. I completely understand it in retrospect. Probably not the best move, but yeah, it's tough. But what I'm really more excited about beyond high school is you're different in that you went to college and you started working. So you're in college like all kids. Most kids, look, they don't necessarily work in college. We have these odd jobs, but you had a real job. So what was your first job in college?
So I started out working at Nordstrom, right? And it was kind of a part-time sales gig, making some money, but it was rough. The hours were tough, staying up all night, folding clothes. And I was complaining about that to a family member, my aunt who works in premium financing, which premium financing, for those who aren't familiar, is kind of like a big bank that finances premiums for insurance. So if you have a big insurance premium, you want to finance it, you can do that through a premium financing company. And she basically works with a lot of insurance brokers and was saying, well, if you're not happy with working at Nordstrom, why don't you go talk to some insurance brokers? Just see, I'm sure they have something you could do part-time, right? And so I went and interviewed with a few brokerages and ended up working for one. And while I was there, ended up getting licensed. Like everyone who works in insurance, did not plan for this to be a permanent gig by any means. I thought, I'll do this for the next 3 years while I finish school. Got out of school with my psychology and social behavior degree, started looking at my student loans because I was paying for school myself. I already had started making some money and building a network because I've been doing it for 3 years at that point, right? And so I thought I can either do this and realistically I can pay off all my loans in the next 2 to 3 years and start saving some money, or I can go get my PhD, which is really what I would need to do to start building a career with my psych degree, which is, 4 to 6 more years of school, 6 figures more of student loans, and don't really know what I want to do with it anyways. And so I'll just be an insurance broker.
You sped through that so quickly, and because you're taking it for granted what you did. And I got to reiterate what, in fact, you did. So you were selling insurance while going to college. Everyone listening to this out, right? You still graduated in 4 years, correct?
It was 4 years and 1 quarter. And I will say my last quarter, I had finished all of my classes. I just didn't have enough credits. So the college that I went to actually made me take 2 dance classes and a history of the Beatles class just to graduate. Well, hold on.
We all should take history of the Beatles because there's no...
That was actually one of the hardest classes I took my whole college career. because it ended up being like a musical theory class more than just facts about the Beatles,
Oh,
which ended up actually being really difficult, which I did not expect. It's a whole different story.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, but this still is a phenomenal story. How many hours are you working in insurance, like a typical week? How many hours were you working?
Oh, I worked my butt off. Yeah, I downplay it. It was a rough few years, for sure. I went to school like mostly at night, and it was a lot of work.
Everyone's just going, some people can relate to that, right? My struggle at college is I had to practice 3 hours a day, playing lacrosse every day. That was nothing compared to what you're talking about. Completely different. But that just tells us the makeup of you, Skylar. It does, right? Skylar Romines isn't this wallflower. She's out there kicking ass, and it's incredible. So now you're this guru in commercial insurance. Fair to say?
Thank you. I appreciate it. I wouldn't say it about myself, but if you want to say it, I'll take it.
You are, because look, everyone out there, we've never met before, correct?
Not in person.
And the only time we ever chatted was through formerly Twitter, now X.
Right.
That's it, right? So that's how I knew you, is because your posts resonated with me and our audience, commercial real estate brokers mostly, in regards to they're all being affected with insurance. They are. So Tyler, let's talk about insurance.
It's everybody's favorite thing to talk about.
Everyone needs it. No one wants to pay for it, but there's no doubt when we don't have it, we're like, oh crap, right? So what do you find right now as we record this? What's the perception of it, commercial insurance? Is it different than it was when you first started out 16 years ago? Is it changed? Has it evolved? We all know it's a necessary and not so evil. I mean, it covers our butts. It does. So just give me your overall view about the value of insurance today.
To put it simply, and I'm, being a little bit facetious here, nobody was inviting insurance brokers on podcasts a few years ago, right? Or to speak at speaking engagements. And I think it's a little bit to throw egg at us, but we never had the nickname of the Grim Reaper until a few years ago either, right? Because every meeting that we walk into, I kind of joke, I feel like that aunt that shows up at Christmas with a bad gift every year. We haven't gotten to deliver good news in 3 or 4 years, and it's tough. When I started, we were just coming out of kind of a hard market cycle. I got licensed in 2008. And so coming out of a hard market cycle, and I kind of caught the tail end of it, but I was still really learning. I was working really closely with a mentor, and she kind of had the shield up, and I wasn't really taking any of the hits. I was kind of aware of what was going on with her, but as I'm sure you're aware, you've mentored a lot of people. And I don't know, I'm sure maybe you had a mentor earlier on in your career.
Of course, yeah.
When you're working that closely with the mentor, you may be aware of what's going on, but you're not taking the hits yourself. It's a very different kind of thing. You're not ultimately responsible for whatever happens at the end of the day.
Correct.
So while I may have been aware of what was going on, this is the first true hard market cycle that I've gone through on my own. And so, yes, it's incredibly different than what it was like when I started 16 years ago. We kind of joke internally that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you got to go to your clients with 2 or 3 different quote options, and you would have a side by side and, oh, here's your pricing and here's your coverage options and which quote do you want? And people would get to choose which one they wanted. Whereas today we're like battling to build out enough limits to just get the coverage to cover a whole portfolio, So in some cases, the capacity is just not even there, let alone you can't compete on rate. So it's a completely different world that we're living in now. People are generally not really happy with the state of the insurance market, and that's fair. It's been tough for sure. Insurance costs more, everything costs more today
It
than
does.
it did 3
It
years
does.
ago. So insurance is not alone in that way, but I think it goes back to what you said as well, which is people don't necessarily mind in a lot of cases paying more for things that they enjoy. And I'm this way too, right? When you have to buy something that you already don't like buying, and then you have to pay 50% or 100% more for it, it's just kind of adding insult to injury. And we understand that, right? And especially when you're specializing in real estate accounts, you look at your NOI, right? And there's really 2 levers you can pull to raise that NOI, right? You raise your revenue or you lower your operating expenses.
Exactly.
Right? And what's one of your highest operating expenses? It's insurance. So we get that, right? It's painful when your insurance goes up 50% or 100%.
So let me ask you this then. I hear you loud and clear, and my audience is going, yeah. But they're also saying, okay, so you're a professional, you're an expert. Is there a specialty, the type of properties you insure right now, or does it run the gambit?
It pretty much runs the gambit. I mean, my team is pretty asset class agnostic and we're pretty geographically agnostic. So We sit in Orange County, California, but our company at large is based out of Tampa, Florida. So we're really nationwide and we are in all the toughest markets. We're literally in California, Florida, Texas, and everywhere in between.
Yeah, those are some
It's
tough.
Yeah.
tough.
And we like it. We like the tough stuff because we're good at it and we can find a solution for it. We have access to a lot of markets. We also have some internal underwriting facilities, so we can write a lot of coverage in-house, which gives us a competitive edge, which is really nice. So we've found some creative solutions that work, which in this market is really important, right?
If a client was coming to you, a prospect, secure a policy on their asset or portfolio, what are some of the worst things they could possibly do when they come to you versus what's the really things they should be doing? Can you make some examples of people out there going, oh, I didn't think about that? Give us some insight.
Working with your broker, making your broker your friend. I can't stress enough how important that is. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that from me because I'm a broker. So, people will argue that incentives don't align and I'm just saying this to help myself and everything else. That's not true. I don't care if I'm your broker, the guy down the street's your broker, some guy in Minnesota is your broker. Choose whoever you want as your broker, but make your broker your friend and work with them and choose one broker. Especially in this market, you cannot afford to send more than one broker out to market. It will hurt you at the end of the day. And for people who aren't familiar with the way that insurance works, and a lot of people aren't. So this is one thing I've really realized the last few years, because a lot of people were so hands-off with insurance. And I get nobody wants to deal with it, right? Even me as an insurance broker, I've been doing this for over 15 years. I don't want to quote my own auto insurance, okay? I will pay 10% more almost every year to just not have to quote my own auto insurance. So I totally get that feeling, right? Now, if I get a 50% increase, I might quote it. So that's exactly what's going on in our commercial insurance market now too, right? Is people were willing to pay 5 or 7 or 10% more and just kind of keep it hands off every year. They could underwrite that into that just worked. But when they started getting 30%, 50% increases, well, now it's mattering, right? Now it's a real number. Now it's real dollars.
So number one, befriend your broker. But is there anything they need to do financially or physically on the property to get the best result from an insurance quote?
First of all, send one broker out to market, because if you send multiple brokers, they're blocking each other at the carriers, right? And this is not something that they're choosing to do or they don't want to each get a quote for you. This is legislative. Each carrier can only provide a quote for one broker. So whichever broker gets to them first, that's the broker that's going to get a quote from that carrier. So even if another broker maybe has a better relationship or would be able to negotiate a better rate for you, you're now blocked and you will not be able to get that quote from that broker unless you do what's called the broker of record. And then you have to change it out with the broker of record letter. That requires a waiting period of a certain number of days. It's a whole process that you have to go through. So you've taken away your own competitive edge there to get the best quote, right? And then if you do that enough, the carriers all have files. So now they know that you're broker shopping. This has become difficult. Carriers are inundated with submissions now. Underwriters are tired. And if you kind of create this reputation for yourself, I hate to put it that way, but it's true, of being the buyer who's constantly broker shopping, constantly making things difficult, low likelihood of binding coverage, and they've got this pile of things to quote, guess where you're going to go in the pile? Right? You're never going to make it to the top.
Total sense.
So it's just the way it is. I mean, they're working 10-hour days, 12-hour days, and they're quoting things. They're not going to quote something they don't think they're going to bind when they know they have a good likelihood of quoting these and you're down here. In terms of the properties and physically what you can do, yes. I mean, it starts at acquisition, right? Look at the age of the property. How old is the property? Look at the major building systems, your heating, HVAC, your plumbing, your roof. Look at your parking, all the major things that you would look at as big CapEx expenditures. What do those look like? That matters for insurance too. Your underwriters are looking at the same things that you would be looking at because those are going to create major insurance losses potentially as well, right? So those are big things to consider.
So we're maintaining our assets. We're keeping things up to grade, obviously up to code. But people like in Texas, Florida, and California are saying, but Scott, I'm doing all that, but I'm still getting killed. Right? And it's not the insurance's fault. I mean, it makes this perfectly clear. It isn't Skylar's fault. It's not. It's a matter of the economics in every situation. I mean, Florida's been bombarded with natural disasters. California's been bombarded with natural disasters. These things are happening, right? So it's impact the insurance. So for those long-term clients you have, how do you help them to maximize their protection? Forget minimize their cost, maximize their protection. What advice do you have there?
what we always tell people is send the address as soon as you can, right? Before you buy it, when you even start looking at an asset, when you start thinking about it, whether you're a developer, send me the APN number. Or if you're looking at a fixed asset, send me the property address. As soon as you can, the first time you start thinking about it, there's no too early, there's often a too late, right? So as soon
there's no too early, there's often a too late. I love that.
I would rather put in a little bit of work on the front end 50 times a year when you're considering an acquisition that you might not go through with versus one time insurance being the reason that you can't buy that property, or you buy a property and it ends up not being profitable for you. I don't want to have to be responsible for that. So don't put me in that position. Like, let me do extra work for you that you end up not moving forward for another reason. But I don't want insurance to be the reason that you can't move forward. But we can run reports for you, right? So as you alluded to, your natural disasters are going to be one thing. Your wildfire in California, your hurricane, your wind, your flood, your hail. Those are all reports that we can run or have our underwriters run to see if you're in a high risk area, and you can do the mapping. Again, it's not to say that maybe you don't purchase that property. Maybe you do decide that, hey, this is an 80% wildfire zone. I'm still going to buy it, but we can tell you up front, your insurance is going to be double there what it would be if you were in a 40% wildfire zone. So at least you know, right? And then you can make an educated decision, and you know what your rates are going to look like. And you know that they're going to be double. If you want to move forward, but you're not going to be surprised a year from now when your insurance costs twice as much. You knew going in what it was going to be, right? And I think that's a broker's job as well, right? And I think that's where a lot of people have gotten upset with us in the last couple of years is I think good brokers have really set themselves apart because they're having regular conversations with their clients and even their prospects about, look, here's what's going on in the market and here's what you should expect. No one should be getting a renewal or even learning a month out from their renewal that, hey, this is going up 100%. You should have known a year ago, 9 months ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, what was going on and what your renewal might look like, right? They should have been helping you with your budgeting. You should have been editing your numbers. You should have known what was changing in the insurance picture. And that communication should be regular enough that you're not shocked.
So I just heard something really unique. It always made me thinking about this of those who own properties and even our brokerage community. So you're telling me that, Skylar, the right insurance broker would be proactively engaged with you during the year, not just during the renewal.
Right. You need to be playing offense. Here's the mentality that I have a real problem with is a lot of brokers won't do that because they think if I tell my clients that their renewal might go up 50%, they're going to go talk to other brokers. Yeah. Right. And so they just don't tell them until the last minute. And then, oh, here's your 60% increase. And yeah, maybe you kept them that year, but what are they going to do next year? They're going to go shop you. And now you look bad. Better to just tell them, look, this is what we're seeing. And maybe they will go shop you. And you can't always stop that from happening. Right? But they're either going to shop you on the front end or they're going to shop you on the back end. And my perspective has always been they're going to have more respect for you for being honest up front, right? And at least trying to do the right thing for them. You know, and some people have partners and other things that have to be considered. I mean, you can't always avoid going through a broker selection. Sometimes that's just going to happen. But at least you give your client the ability to make a good argument for you, right? They tried. Look, they've done this for us, right?
Hey folks, Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Group. And did you know we work with thousands of your commercial real estate peers over the past 15 years now. And we've helped them build the business and the life they've always desired. And yeah, we have programs now for every level of success, experience, and yeah, even budget. So if you're tired of living on that transaction treadmill, of living in the chaos and the whirlwind of commercial real estate, if you want more clarity, more control, and more consistency, and yeah, higher commissions, give us a call. Visit us at www.massimo-group.com. That's www.massimo-group.com and schedule a free strategy session today. I got to take directions on you. Talk to me about working with commercial real estate brokers. What do they do that are just no-nos? Help them out. What are they doing that you're like, no, we need this or we need that? Do you work with commercial real estate brokers? And if so, what are the no-nos or the things they should be thinking of when they work with insurance brokers?
We do work with commercial real estate brokers quite a bit. I don't know. There are no major no-nos. Again, with the timing, one thing I would say, and I think a lot of them have learned this the past couple of years and gotten better about it, you know, think about insurance sooner for sure. It usually only takes once. You don't touch the hot stove twice. Takes one deal, learning that the buyer can't get insurance in time to not do that again, right? And to think about insurance earlier in the due diligence process. But I think most of them are good at what they do, right? At least most of the ones that we work with. So I don't have any major no-nos. In fact, I would say, and I say this a lot to my team, the commercial insurance brokerage world can learn a lot from the commercial real estate brokerage world.
How so? What are they doing right?
I think the commercial real estate world is hungrier. I think I see more prospecting. I think I see more drive, and our industry is largely aging out, and we could learn from, not my team.
No.
But the industry as a whole. In fact, I try to emulate the commercial real estate brokerage world in a lot of ways because I think we could learn a lot from you guys.
I love it.
Yeah.
Because look, I personally have had some of my and different insurances lapse. I'm like, what do you mean they lapsed? I mean, how could they have lapsed and me not know that, right? How would it?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we didn't. How can you not have informed me this, right? So I get it. Okay, I got to talk to you one more time because you're a power at this too. We met through X. Is that correct? We met through X.
Through Twitter, yeah. Twitter X.
Yeah. Twitter X. So why are you on Twitter?
It's a really good question. I ask myself that some days still.
Yeah, some days you're like, people, come on.
Why am I here?
Skylar, I asked myself that question on Sunday when something happened. I was like, why am I even wasting? Why am I here?
Yeah. So I started just about 4 months ago. So it's still a really new experiment for me. I will say that.
Wait a minute. You got on my radar and you've only been on this for
been about 4 months. Yeah. I started in October. It is working. It's been great. And I will say this, we've already had a lot of success getting in front of people, meeting people. I've made what I would call friends there, which sounds a little bit crazy just that fast, but people who have been really good resources for me in terms of business, between LinkedIn, which I've been doing for a bit longer, about a year now. Between LinkedIn and Twitter, we've bound quite a bit of business and have another 7 figures in the pipeline. So I can't complain at all about what social media has done for me and my team. It's been an incredible resource. I've learned a lot just personally too. I mean, the amount of information that people share there, from developers to real estate principals to every kind of vendor, kind of ancillary person in the real estate world that you could think of. People are there just sharing information freely, which I think is really beautiful. So
you've done LinkedIn longer than X.
About a year, yeah.
And what do you find a significant difference between the two platforms?
They're just different, right? I feel like LinkedIn's a little bit more buttoned up. Twitter, I still call it Twitter. Twitter's a little bit more colloquial. I think it's a little bit more friendly. I feel a little bit more comfortable just sharing myself there, right? And I think one thing about Twitter that's really cool too is the Spaces feature. So you can do like a live chat with people. And I don't think LinkedIn, at least that I've seen, has any real answer for that. For me, Twitter, and especially the, retweet community, that real estate Twitter community, has a different feel where it's not just, LinkedIn, I can connect with one person, and in a lot of different ways, I can connect with one person, right? And it's me and one person in many different iterations. Whereas in retweet, and there's some crossover too, right, between SMB Twit and FinTwit and all these kind of different communities,
right,
that do have some, it's kind of a little Venn diagram there, right, where there's some crossover in those communities, but they truly are communities. And yes, you can have one-off connections as well, and there are opportunities to do business there, build friendships and relationships there, but it truly does come together as this town square online versus just LinkedIn, which is these one-on-one relationships that you're forming. So I don't know how Twitter has managed necessarily to do that, whereas other social media platforms for me have never had that effect, but there really is something different there.
I mean, you just laid it out beautifully, Skylar. You did. I hope the audience was listening. So what you've done is you're just not being social with other insurance agents. That's not what you're doing, right?
I don't want to do that.
No. But I will tell you, and look, I'll say it straight out. That is one of my, I won't say pet peeves. I have a lot of pet peeves. It's one of my concerns, I guess, for our clients who are engaging with other brokers. Now, I understand they'll get deals. Don't get me wrong, but they're not expanding their network to a point that social media is formulated for to truly grow their business. Commercial real estate brokers, talking commercial real estate brokers is nice. It's great. And yes, on Twitter, especially not LinkedIn, it's social. It is, right? And there's the bad part of it too. Sometimes it gets personal. It gets ridiculous to me. Sometimes it gets not even worth being on, frankly. But what you've done, which I think I have to shout out to all commercial real estate brokers, just don't live in your silo. And Skylar, you're a great example of this. So you said Fin tweet and retweet. And what's the third one you said?
SMB Twit. Small medium business Twitter. So that's a place where small business owners go. And then FinTwit is finance Twitter. So that's a place where finance professionals go.
Brokers, if you're on these other channels, you're missing out because Skylar has only been doing this for 4 months on Twitter, correct?
Right.
A year and almost a half on LinkedIn. Look, I don't have many outside of industry on my podcast, and you popped like that. As soon as I saw your stuff and went, that girl knows what the hell she's talking about. I got to have her on my show. And that's all because of Twitter. It is.
Thank you. The other thing I will say about LinkedIn that LinkedIn does well is they have really good analytics about what industries you're connected with. So when I really started using LinkedIn, that was one thing I had dug into. And my kind of default network, where I've been on LinkedIn for years, but was never actively using it. Mm-hmm. My default network, to your point, was all insurance people because it's just people who have added me over the years.
Right.
So when I started actually using it as a tool to prospect, that was one of the things I was following most closely was, okay, I started at 60% or 65% insurance professionals, and then it was real estate and construction, real estate and development, whatever it says. And so that's the needle I wanted to move most when I first started was let's get that real estate and development needle up because those are the people I really want to be connecting with. I want to move that insurance needle down as far as I can because I already know those people. Those are not the people that I want to be connected with in my social network, right?
That's great advice. I hope everyone's listening and taking care of them, thinking a plan to go forward. Okay, Skylar, so what's next, right? So what's next? So Skylar, not in the insurance realm because the insurance is evolving every day. And we're all very concerned that our choices will be less and less and less and less, frankly. But what's next for Skylar? You went from working your butt off in college, creating this career that not what you originally thought for going to college, but now you've blossomed in, frankly. So is it a bigger team? What is it? What's next for Skylar?
So a few things, right? Always a bigger team, always looking to grow. We're still really hungry. So I'm kind of in this unique position where, yes, I have 15 years of experience, but I'm 35 years old. So I'm still very young, very hungry.
Child.
Yeah. So it's awesome. And my team's a lot the same way. We have a lot of younger talent that has a lot of really great experience. And that's a beautiful place to be in because, we have goals. I'm not going to say our number goals here, but we have specific number goals that we want to reach over the next few years and they're big. So we're still waking up running every day, which is awesome. It's great energy to be around. And not common in the insurance industry again. So I think we have a really competitive edge there. Outside of insurance, a couple things. I mean, I've really this past year or so, and I think a lot of it is as a result of social media, which I'm really grateful for, gotten involved with some real estate circles. So I want to personally and professionally get more involved in the real estate world. I don't know what that looks like yet, but very open to opportunities and meeting more people and networking. And that's been awesome and hope that continues to grow and flourishes in whatever ways it flourishes. And then also have a book coming out later this year. So very excited about that. Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
We can talk about it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So give me the premise.
So I noticed a couple years ago that people say the insurance industry is 70% women. And I started looking around and noticing that doesn't seem right to me because I work with 15 men and no women. I've been in the industry for 15 years. My account managers are women, but there are no women that I see that are doing what I'm doing or above, and where are these 70%? Yeah. And then, I've always worked with construction, development, real estate companies, and I'm looking around at the industries that I serve and same thing, right? And so I started pulling statistics and, going through things and really working on how are these statistics lining up with what I'm seeing in the real world? Because I'm starting to feel crazy when I hear 70% of the industry is women. I'm looking around, I'm not seeing any women. And what it really boiled down to was all the women are in these low paying service roles and all the men are in the positions of having equity, having ownership or revenue generating sales position where they're being paid on commission and really making money in the industry. And then I looked at real estate and I looked at construction, I looked at development. And even though the overall percentage of women in those industries is much lower than it is in insurance, those industries kind of have the same type of distribution curve where the women who are in those industries aren't the ones who are in the positions making money for the most part. So what I did was through some of my networking groups, reached out to a few dozen women who are in those positions in mostly the real estate and development worlds and interviewed them about their experiences and kind of compiled all of their experiences along with some statistics and things and put them all into a book that hopefully will help more women in the future get into some of those roles. So,
well, that is absolutely phenomenal. And I know it's going to be a huge hit because I agree with you 1,000%. It's embarrassing, especially in the commercial real estate brokerage world. My almost 40 years doing this. Look, I'm one of them, right? I'm an old white guy. Yeah, well, you can say I'm also Hispanic, but I'm a white guy. But that's pathetic. It is. So I applaud you and thank you for doing what you're doing. That is fantastic.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Obviously something I care about because I've been through it. So we want to make it better for the next generation, however we can.
We will. We definitely will. Okay. So Skylar Romines, you've been a blast on this episode of the Massimo Show. And I know we'll see more of each other on the social networks and everything else. I have nothing but high praise for you and everything you do. And thank you for being a guest.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, folks, Skylar's dropped a whole bunch of knowledge on you. But as I always share with you, as I said in my fourth book, Knowing Isn't Doing. And that is, if you don't go out and you expand your networks like Skylar's doing, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be in a rut and you're not get out. Skylar's showing you the path to get and grow. Let's go do that. Until next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with The Massimo Show. Hey, that's it. That's a wrap for this episode of The Massimo Show. Once again, hopefully you learned a lot of value provided by our guests, or maybe by me. But the key is this. As we say in Massimo, knowing isn't doing. So don't kid yourself. You have to go out and do the work. You have to implement what you learned if you want to get the results. And please, if you like this episode, please share it. Share it with your colleagues, share it with your friends. Heck, share it with your dog. Just share it. And we look forward to seeing you next time on The Massimo Show.